I have been off of Instagram and Facebook for a whole year. Hey, I'm Karina. I share my life and experiences with you here on YouTube. If you want to support me, go ahead and subscribe, please. Okay, this is what I learned from being off of Instagram and Facebook for a whole year. I'm excited about it. First, I'll tell you that the day that I deactivated my Facebook and Instagram accounts did not come easy. I was scrolling all day long at work, when I was hanging out with my friends. I was scrolling at family functions during important classes, things like that. And I couldn't seem to stop. It was like I could hear the voice inside of my head while I was scrolling saying like, hey, like this is not good or appropriate or right to be scrolling this long for hours at a time. And I needed to get off of my phone and I couldn't do that. So I had to stop. It was like pretty obsessive and crazy at the end. That sounds kind of dramatic, but that's really how it was. I was also at the point in my life where I could just do other things. Like I had a life, like I was reading books and I was like had hobbies and stuff, but I just couldn't bring myself to do those things. It was like I had no control over myself. I wonder, like, does that sound familiar to anybody? Has anybody like been on their phone and been like, wow, this is really dumb, like why am I scrolling? Why can't I just be quiet for a second? Why do I have to be looking down at my cell phone 24/7 and scroll? And who really cares about this shit? And that's the point that I got to by the time that I wanted to delete my shit. I still have YouTube and Reddit because I think that there's like a good educational aspect to it. And it's also a lot more entertaining to me to be able to watch and read full form posts, of course. Like I'm not living under a rock. I just don't need to have Instagram or Facebook right now in my life. I created my Instagram and my Facebook when I was like 11 or 12 years old. So like 5th grade all the way up. I was really active on those accounts for 15 years until I deleted it when I was 25. It stored all of my memories, all of my embarrassing middle school moments, and it really represented a part of my life. Like a big part of my life was on my Facebook and my Instagram. I'm sure that's true for a lot of people. There were a lot of like old depressing Facebook posts, a lot of old selfies and Instagram stories that I kept being reminded of, and I was in the process of trying to let that stuff go and like move on with my life. And I think that was really a big motivator for me at the time. It was really just like a documentation of the hardest and most confusing times of my life. And I was ready to let that go by the time I deleted it. I found myself obsessively stalking other people, acquaintances, famous people, everybody, ex-boyfriends, things like that, old friends. And I was kind of just putting myself in a position to be sad or to have regret and shame over things that I was no longer aligned with. I was always looking for something to post on my story to impress other people or to impress myself. I would like watch my own story to like prove to myself that I was doing good because I posted things that looked good, in my opinion. At the end of my social media experience, I was missing hours of sleep. I was obsessively scrolling. I would feel awful in bed at 2 a.m, knowing I had to get up early. I was having shitty quality of sleep. I had trouble waking up because I was up all night, like with a light in front of my face. I also found myself like reminiscing about really painful experiences in my life and trying to like justify those experiences or looking back at those things like they were good things. Social media was making my world seem really small. It's really how that felt. Like all I had seen all day was just like highlight reels of people's lives or news stories and things like that. And it was really not productive. I was never really in the moment. I always wanted to get a picture of what I was doing, whether I was like getting coffee with a friend or lunch or going to a museum. I had to like stop and post things all the time, and I had an unhealthy obsession with documenting the best parts of my life. I also was like not really present in my friendships or in the people or in the situations around me. I was just kind of posting a lot. I was really far away from the present moment. So finally, in like, I think it was June 17th of last year, I deactivated my Instagram and my Facebook profiles, and it was like a coming to Jesus moment. A lot of it was weird. It's not easy to delete your Facebook or your Instagram. I had to Google it. I had to Google how to do it because the platforms like made it so difficult to delete, obviously. You have to jump through a bunch of hoops. You have to like explain to the Facebook, Instagram gods why you want to delete it, if you're really sure you want to delete it. And that kind of made me angry, and it like kind of reaffirmed that it was the right thing to do. So finally I hit the deactivate button, and if anyone else has done this, you know that it'll tell you like, okay, we're deactivating this in 30 days actually, just in case you change your mind. And I was like, that's weird. So I knew like I had access to these accounts still for 30 more days before they were going to like really delete it. What I learned about myself in those 30 days was that I was physically and compulsively grabbing my phone to hit the Facebook or Instagram apps on my phone, and I was in the habit of that. Like my muscle memory was, let's go on Facebook and Instagram. And I thought that was kind of scary. So oftentimes I would grab my phone and I would go to the app and it wouldn't be there. And I'd be like, what do I do? Holy shit, this is something making like a real hard change in my life right now. It's like kind of when the anxiety started to set in as well. There were so many times in that period where the inability to distract myself forced me to reflect on who I was, what I was doing, if I liked those things, and how I was going to get to grow to be the person I want to be and make steps towards that. I didn't have that when I was scrolling because I was blocking out all of my consciousness with content. It was a time that I got to really focus on building the lifestyle that I want, which was invaluable. Over time too, I realized I was becoming a better friend. I was really listening and being there with other people, like really in the stream of life. I was really like there. It was like a new pair of glasses, and everything was beautiful, and I live in a really beautiful place and my life is really beautiful, and I knew that, but I didn't really experience any of that because I was so like entrenched with my phone. The big thing is that social media fed this fear monster inside of me that already exists, and I think it's totally normal to have healthy fears and to like want to be safe and all that stuff, but like social media really heightened fear, like a lot of fear mongering inside of me. The couple years leading up to me deleting social media probably has something to do with it. There were a lot of issues coming up. There was a lot going on in the world. There was like COVID and war and riots and shit like that. And my friends would post about it. I would post about it. We felt kind of obligated to. I felt kind of obligated to anyways, because that was like the only way I could, I don't know, prove that I cared about these social issues. I don't know if I do anymore. I just like kind of made me feel like a huge victim of the world, totally powerless in these issues, and it was like posting on them was the only way to make it better, but really it just made it worse inside. So like, fuck that. The only way I can make a real change is by changing myself and hoping that that kind of spreads to the people around me around the world by making that change inside of me. And it took me a while to realize that I have no control of these huge, complicated systemic issues, but I'm being force-fed the nitty-gritty details of them all the time on Instagram and on Facebook, and I felt like a pressure to join in on the conversation. But I just found that like the more I focused on those kinds of problems, the weaker I got and the less able I was to really work on myself in order to make any kind of difference out there or in myself. When I deleted Instagram and Facebook, all of that stuff like vanished. It was no longer in front of my face all the time. It's interesting too, like just because I changed things on Instagram, on Facebook, I really feel like my external reality changed too. My friends no longer felt comfortable talking to me in these kinds of complainy ways. I no longer felt comfortable being in this like kind of a victim reel in my head. Over time, without social media, I felt less victimized. I felt less afraid. I was less angry at the world. I had more control of the kind of content I found appropriate for myself. I could really curate my surroundings on tech. There was like a strong social pressure, especially in my group of people at the time, to be activists, to participate on current events. And as good as that stuff can be and necessary at times, I didn't find it necessary for me anymore. I changed a lot just because of that. Just because of changing like what I was posting and just not having Instagram and Facebook, I found that I am not so much of a social justice warrior as I think I was at all. I look back and I realize we were just complaining and feeding off of these things, and it made me feel worse and us probably feel worse about our lives and our life situations. I look back and I realize that it made me angrier and more of a victim than anything. It wasn't productive. It didn't make me feel any more woke. It didn't make me any more intellectual. It was just a pity party. It created a perpetuating and subconscious message that the world sucked and my situation sucked, and I guess that is just the way it is, and that's pretty lame. You know, now it's been a year and I can safely say that this was one of my best life decisions. I feel so lucky that I don't have to participate in social media to feel like I belong anymore. I don't have to use social media to distract myself or create a false sense of myself anymore. I'm really present in my life, and I don't have social media to pull me away from trying to be the best version of myself. So it kind of was like a weird addiction. There are some caveats to this. YouTube Reels can put me in a chokehold. It is designed to keep me scrolling. The algorithm is designed to keep me in a fucking chokehold. So I have to be careful about that. I recently had to take 2-ish months off of Reddit. And like in this time, I would just suddenly realize like, wow, like Reddit was a really like, the population on there can have such a hater, like scary, fear-mongering energy. And I'm so glad that I don't have to feed myself that kind of content every day anymore. I never had TikTok because I knew. When it came out, I knew it was like too well designed in my friends' lives and potentially my life to get me really away from the present moment. So I've never had TikTok, thank God. I've heard it's really educational though. It's just not for me. I'm sure social media has a lot of upsides. I don't remember what they are anymore because the bad outweighs the good so much to me. And I'm just really happy that I don't have those things anymore. It rewarded my old needs of external validation. It fed the monsters of fear and victimization. 1 year later, today, I can confidently say I am much better off without it. I have much better relationships in my life. I enjoy nature and my surroundings a lot more. I can really focus on what I want and how I can grow to be better, and I can just kind of enjoy myself now. I don't have this like monkey on my back making me post selfies or scrutinize other people or myself anymore. So with that, I'll just say thank you so much for watching.